Finding a roommate is the only situation in adult life where you invite a complete stranger to live in your home, share your bathroom, and eat your food flight, based entirely on a 3-paragraph bio and the fact that they said they were chill in a text message. I'm pretty chill, I work a lot, I'll never be home. That's the dream roommate ad. That's what they all say. You know what chill actually means? It means they will be home every single day. Chill is not a personality. Chill is a warning. The listing I responded to said, looking for someone clean, quiet, and respectful. I was all 3 things in the interview. I wore a button-down shirt. I brought my own pen. They wore sunglasses indoors and asked if I was cool with vibes. I said yes. I did not know what that meant. I moved in 2 weeks later. The kitchen. The kitchen is where roommate relationships go to die. It starts small. It always starts small. Day 1, I put my food on a specific shelf. Day 3, my yogurt has been moved. Not eaten. Moved. Like someone rearranged the refrigerator and my yogurt was inconvenient to their vision. I didn't say anything. I moved it back. Day 5, it's been moved again. We are playing chess with dairy products and nobody has said a word. Then comes the dish situation. My roommate had a philosophy about dishes. His philosophy was, wash them eventually. The timeline for eventually was open to interpretation. I interpreted it as before the mold becomes sentient. He interpreted it as when I feel called to. I once found a bowl in the sink that had been there so long it had developed its own ecosystem. I named it Gerald. I missed Gerald when I finally washed him. When you live with someone and you don't want a confrontation, you write notes. You tell yourself it's communication. It is not communication. It is warfare with stationery. The escalation of passive-aggressive notes is one of the most distinctly human forms of conflict. You start with, hey, and 2 exclamation points and end with a printed spreadsheet tracking dish usage over 6 weeks with color-coded highlights. I made that spreadsheet. I'm not proud of it. I emailed it to him as a PDF. With a cover page. When you share a bathroom with someone, you learn things about them that no friendship should ever survive. Things that cannot be unseen. Habits that cannot be unknown. My roommate took 45-minute showers. 45 minutes. Every morning. Like he was in there filing tax, like there was paperwork involved. I once knocked and asked if everything was okay. He said, yeah, I'm just thinking. TH inking. In MY shower. On my hot water. For 45 minutes. Sir, there are therapists for that. They have couches. They are dry. And then he'd come out like he'd just returned from a spa. Glowing. Serene. Hair perfect. And I'm standing there in my towel, caffeine deprived, needing to be at work in 20 minutes, looking at him like, I have never hated someone who smelled so good. I also had a female roommate once who left hair in the shower drain. Now, I understand this happens. Falls out, it's biology. But there was so much of it every week, like she was molting. I started finding it everywhere. On the couch, on the kitchen counter, in my cereal once. In my cereal. I asked her about it and she said, oh, I shed a lot in winter. She said it so casually. Like she was a golden retriever who had accepted this about herself. I started wearing socks everywhere in the apartment. Everywhere. I wore socks to get a glass of water at 2 a.m. I wore socks in my own room with the door closed. I became a socks at all times person. Blam. Years later, different apartment, no roommates, still wearing socks. She changed me permanently. Day night, they walk back in and you've completely reset to your feral baseline and now you have to be a person again. It's jarring. There should be a 24-hour re-entry warning. Nothing tests a roommate relationship like incompatible sleep schedules. You are a morning person, they are a night person, and never the twain shall sleep. I go to bed at 10. My roommate came alive at 10. 10 p.m. was apparently when his social life activated. I once came out in my pajamas at 12:30 a.m. and just stood in the doorway. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. He looked back. He turned the blender off. We never spoke. But then I'd get up at 6 and make coffee, and apparently the sound of a coffee maker is unbearable at that hour. He came out once, half asleep, hair catastrophic, and just said, "Bro, it's 6." I said, "I know, it's morning." He looked at me like I'd said something in a language he didn't speak. He went back to bed. I drank my coffee in complete silence out of respect for a man who chose to be nocturnal. In practice, it means at 11 p.m., you are lying in bed listening to the same 4 chords of Wonderwall for the 47th time. I know every note. I can hear it in my dreams. If I ever meet him... Here is the truth about roommates, though. The real truth?
Here is the truth about roommates, though. The real truth.
Living with someone, truly living with them, not just visiting with them, is one of the most revealing things you'll ever do. You see him before coffee. You see him sick and grumpy and broke and stressed. Sometimes you also see them at 2 a.m. making toast and watching a bad movie, and they offer you a slice without being asked. And somewhere between the passive-aggressive notes and the cold cheese and the 45-minute showers and Dave fame, whoever Dave is named, you realize you were also difficult to live with. You had habits. You had your thing about the yogurt shelf. You made a spreadsheet about dishes with a cover page. The person who drove you the most insane is also the person who knew you best when you were 23 and broke and figuring out how humans work. And that's something. That's actually something. I still don't know who Dave is. Dave, if you're out there, Tony, you owe me 14 months of Netflix. You know what you did.
Have a good day. Thanks a lot for being a great audience. Goodbye.